I think the protests have compelled the governments, both at the state and the center, as well as other institutions, to ensure that there is both some serious investigation, redressal in this particular incident, the criminal investigation, and that the perpetrators are held accountable by through the criminal justice system. At the same time, particularly women and women doctors are sharing their experiences and drawing attention to the completely unsafe working conditions across the country. And that is true not just for the medical profession, but for all professions in this country. And we know that we have laws in place. We have a very strong legal regime. However, there is no political will, there is no social consensus to enforce those laws in any systematic and comprehensive manner.
Well, as you say, the protest has turned into a wider call for supporting women's rights in the workforce, especially in the health setting. Can you tell us why many female workers say they just don't feel safe? What are the conditions like?
Well, these are, I'm sure, internal conversations that they've been having for long. Now they're out in the public. We actually have a law in place which emerged from a dreadful experience of a rural working woman where she was gang raped because she was performing her work. This led to a judgment of the Supreme Court in 1997, which recognized women's right to a safe and dignified workplace as part of her human rights and fundamental rights. Much later, this translated into a law in 2013, which makes it the duty of every employer or head of institution to ensure a safe working place, safe from hostility, safe from all forms of sexual violence, be it sexual harassment or gang rape. None of that is implemented. In this particular case, for instance, what was required? We know that there are women doctors, there are nurses. So clearly, when they're on a 36-hour shift, they will need a room, a place, a washroom, which is safe, where they can rest. Even that basic facility of a room in a government hospital is not available for women doctors, nurses, staff to rest. This is complete defiance of the law. And actually, nobody monitors and nobody cares till a young woman loses her life.
Well, in this particular case, the protests first began when an autopsy revealed what actually happened to the junior doctor, and the parents of the victim were initially told a very different story. Local media reporting that the parents told the court that they suspect that it was a case of gang rape. How will this be investigated now?
Well, absolutely. The parents were misled, they were misinformed, and we see this kind of cover-up constantly when something like this takes place. And that actually breeds the kind of impunity that we see in India for violence against women. And that is why the Kolkata High Court, the High Court at the state of West Bengal, has now passed directions and handed over the investigation to the Central Bureau of Investigation, taking it away from the local police because their efforts were seen as compromised and partisan. And we hope that now the investigation will proceed. However, I would also like to add that what we had heard in the beginning with respect to the autopsy report has now proven to be completely false. There is a lot of misinformation and disinformation that is being spread, and that is extremely unfortunate, as well as competitive politics being played over this incident between different political parties. The autopsy report, with very prurient kind of details about the amount of semen, etc., has now, the doctors have clarified that that was a wrong reading of the information.
What were the parents told initially?
The parents were misled. The parents were initially told that it's a case of suicide, and we've registered an FIR of unnatural death, which is absolutely illegal. Quite clearly, the condition in which her body was found, it was apparent that this was a case of homicide. And that is how the investigation should have been taken forward. The parents were misinformed. They were not allowed to see the body immediately. And all this was what contributed to the feeling that there is a cover-up. And the parents then approached the High Court.
Would the High Court have transferred the case to the Central Bureau of Investigation if there wasn't such an outcry by the parents, the protesters who demanded this? Are the rallies making a difference?
I think the court has transferred the investigation not necessarily because there's an outcry, but because the parents have made submissions, and it is apparent from what the media reports that the investigation, the manner in which it was being carried out, was either extremely shoddy, or I would say it was shoddy and partisan and compromised, and therefore it was transferred. Insofar as the public protests are concerned, I think they are signaling in our country, and we know this is not the first time that women and others have hit the streets seeking an end to this kind of pervasive sexual violence. Even as this incident is being discussed prominently in the public discourse, reports of other incidents of rape from across the country are constantly coming in, of minor rape, of professional women, of working women. So there is this kind of discussion is required. However, what does tend to happen is that the outrage and the anger and the despair and the anxiety, which is normal and natural in such circumstances, then gets either diverted towards a very shrill outcry for the death sentence, which does nothing for women feeling more secure and free in this country, or it remains focused only on one case. And we don't see that particular incident actually causing a sea change, both in social processes, attitudes, criminal investigation, as well as responsibilities of the state government, central government, and institutions.
Are you hopeful that this change can take place?
I think the change will only take place through this. I don't think we have any hope from our governments. They have no political will and they have no reason to. Only that is done which they think is likely to impact upon their electoral prospects. And I think women in this country in particular are now quite determined that they will not lead this kind of subordinate lives. We will live as equal citizens and we will live as free citizens. We don't want to be saved or kept safe. We want to be free. And it's not a miracle we are asking for.
Vrinda Grover, really good to talk tonight. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.